Seersucker soup on a hot summer day. Coffee comes back in a nerve-wracking way. The dishes and laundry take the garbage out. What a day, what a day, what a day.
Well, welcome to Capital Region Today. I'm so happy you're joining us today. It's July 24th, and oh my goodness, the summer is starting to get away from us, I guess. We've got a great lineup today, and I hope you'll stay for the entire show. We're going to be talking with Assemblyman Angelo Santabarbara. He has passed some recently passed legislation about autism, but we're going to be talking about some events that are friendly, sensory friendly for many of the people who have issues with sound in autism. And then we're going to be talking with Northern Rivers, and we're going to talk about the home finders. They're looking for homes for foster children, and we'll find out how maybe you can get involved and what it does take to be a foster parent. Bill Monroe will be talking with us about the Scottish Games, but also I'm going to kind of pull him a little bit because I understand he's going to be going to Scotland, and we'll find out what that event is all about that he's going to be going to. Our very special guests today are from the New York State Museum, and we are going to be talking about paleontology. Part of it has to do with the dino exhibit that is going on at the Armory Studios, New York. And they have a display there, and they've done some research, and we're going to find out more about what are the fossils in New York. They are amazing women. They have done so much research, and it's their delight to talk to, so I'm looking forward to that. But we thought we'd start off the show with a Highland Cathedral from Bill Monroe, but we'll be talking to him later. So let's have him start off the show. Come on, Bill. Thank you, Bill. That was the Highland Cathedral. And we're going to be talking with him a little bit later in the show, find out more about the Scottish Games that are coming up, and also about his trip to Scotland. I believe he has some grandchildren that are going to be competing, but I'm not positive. Let's find out more about that after. Right now, we're going to start out with Angelo Santabarbara. Angelo has been very active and proactive, I should say, on the autism front. It's so important, but tell me what this new legislation is.
Well, thank you for having me on the
always
show.
good to see you.
I really appreciate what a great way to open the show.
I know.
I want to make it a little better because, of course, my mother wanted to make sure I made this special delivery on the air, so she'll be watching. And this is our homemade tomato sauce that we do every year.
Oh my God!
We get together, the family.
And you can it too, huh?
Yeah, we
I freeze all of mine.
The whole process. We do the whole process.
Do that, yeah.
Right through. And,
well, you know what? This is going to be. This isn't going to go on the shelf for.
Has ended for this year. We'll see if we continue, if we'll be called back, but a lot of legislation that I work on is related to people with disabilities. That's my passion. That's what led me to the New York State Assembly.
Absolutely.
I
remember as an engineer doing his stuff.
I was talking to you when I was a civil engineer. That's
civil
right.
engineer.
And I did that for 15 years, and that was my passion. But when my son was born, it changed my life. My son was born with autism, and it changed my life, and changed my life for the better. It put me in a new direction. I left that 15-year career to do advocacy for people with disabilities.
And Michael is such a great kid.
My son has been on this. We've been on the journey together. He just walked across the stage this year at Chalmers to pick up his diploma. He gave me the thumbs up and walked across that stage, and I know he had me crying. I don't know if anyone else. I think there was some other people.
Very touching.
It was a very emotional moment for a lot of people.
Exactly.
And that speaks to what we're talking about. There's a lot of legislation at the Capitol. A lot of things that I've done over the years. And
you've expanded something in the law, haven't you?
Yeah, there's a number of different bills that we've worked on. The bill I believe you're referring to is including spina bifida into the services.
That's what my grandson has. So I know exactly what you're dealing with because it affects the mind as well.
Right. So there's a number of different disabilities. We want to make sure spina bifida is also included in what OPWDD provides services for.
Right.
There's a number of different treatments and things that get very expensive. And at one time, autism was not covered by insurance for that
They
for that
really
matter.
didn't understand autism, and now we know the spectrum is like this. It can
Exactly.
be from here to there, and it was hard to diagnose.
And we're learning more and more about it. And on this journey with my son, he teaches me things every day. I mean, I learn from him. He is my angel. He keeps me going.
And he likes to
cook.
And
he loves to cook. He's found passion in cooking, so that he puts a lot of that sauce to good use. And he teaches me things. As I said, he teaches me things every day. And he reminds me, hey, Dad, there's things to fight for. There's good things in this world. Keep going, Dad. On good days and bad days, he's there. He's there to make sure. He inspires me. He really does. And I've had him. You've seen him on the show. You've been on my show at the Capitol.
Yeah, I know.
Part of this, though, after there's a legislation piece, but there's also a community piece. And a lot of the events that we're going to be talking about today are autism acceptance events, is what I call them. So at one time we talked about autism awareness. Now that has evolved into autism acceptance. So we do want to keep that awareness out there, but we also want to work on fostering a community of acceptance and inclusion and the sensory-friendly events that you talked about.
It's important because I've gone to events, and the first time I kind of wonder what was going on because the kids are in there with these big and they're not earmuffs, but they're I don't know what they are, but they're
they block
like
out the
headphones.
sound. So a lot of times, and my son experiences this, it's too much input. So the lights are too bright, the sound is too loud. There's just too much input. So what happens is families just don't go. They'll stay away.
But now, even like the bow tie theater, I don't know if it's still bow tie, but they were even having
sensory-friendly movies. That's right. And I know the Armory has had a number of events, the dinosaurs, and
yes, they have.
A number of different events that they have also included a sensory-friendly day. Siena Basketball, we do a yearly event with them where we do a sensory-friendly basketball game, and that's quite the experience.
How do you do that? I mean, because you're going, yeah.
Well, you walk in and it's really strangely quiet, and it's dark, and you don't hear the big horns, and you can just hear the sneakers on the hardwood.
Oh, okay.
But what that does is it opens it up for more people to attend it. And I talk to people there every year that they say they've never been able to go to a game, and now they're able to do it as a family. So how wonderful is that? And and I think it's just
an awareness that we have to know that when you see a child or an adult, it could be an adult with these things on it. The first time it was like, well, why are they doing that? And then it dawned on me, oh, it has to do with that. Now I'm understanding. So it's one of those things that we understand more.
Yeah, and it's about acceptance, understanding, inclusion. People do want to know how do we help? How do we do this? And we're offering those opportunities now, and we're seeing just more and more of it. And some of the events that I'm going to be hosting again this year.
I know the two that are coming up.
Yeah.
You already had one in Amsterdam at the Shuttleworth.
The Shuttleworth Park. Yeah. So we do the Autism Night at the baseball park, and these events are partnerships with the organizations, whether it's Amsterdam Mohawks, Via Aquarium.
Now let's talk about the one coming up, which is the Via Aquarium.
Yep.
That's on the 28th, I think it is.
That's right.
What will that involve? And I mean, like sensory. I mean, I don't think there's no sharks there or anything.
No. So it's just a matter of having people on hand that can have direct people to sensory-friendly spaces. If there's sensory overload for whatever
it's kind
reason.
of a quiet
Yeah,
place to
quiet
begin
spaces.
with.
That's exactly what it is. There's quiet spaces made available. There's a sensory kit you receive at the door. It's a little tote bag, and in it has those headphones. It has some other sensory toys. My son has fidget toys and things that he has to have while he's going through, and it's a calming. It helps him.
It's a common thing. Yeah.
It relieves anxiety. It does a number of things. So there's a whole kit they're able to receive at the door to be able to enjoy their experience, to open that up. And they open up the aquarium that day for families affected by disability. Right. It could be any disability, no charge. It opens up the door. Charge, they can go
through. Do they
through.
still have the creatures at the beginning? They used to have the
they do.
Yeah.
They do. Yes.
They're wonderful too. I love the snakes.
Some of them. Yeah, some of them are. They're pretty interesting. Interesting displays they have in there.
The snakes are quiet.
They're quiet. Actually, the fish are pretty quiet.
Yeah, they are.
So the stingrays, you can pet the stingrays, and there's a number of different activities.
Yeah, you can actually lean over and.
You can. Have you done that?
Oh yeah, I've done it. I've held the scorpions and everything.
I do it every time. I can't resist when I get there. But I'm looking forward to this, and the event is well attended from the very first one. We've had hundreds, and even in some cases more than 1,000 people show up from a very long distance to go to this event
because they haven't been able to do it otherwise.
They were very rare at the time. There's more now. We're seeing more now, but at the time there was not many that offered a sensory-friendly experience like that. But as our community's learning and how to be more accepting and inclusive, we're seeing more and more of these. People are just doing it on their own because even if it's a business or something in the community, you want more people to come.
Exactly.
Now you've just expanded, all these families that normally couldn't go are now going to be able to attend if they want to. So that is going to be a great event. So we're looking forward to seeing people there. And thank you for advertising here on the show that we're going to have that. We want people to come, we want people to have a good time. We want to also show what it means to have a sensory-friendly offering like this.
Okay, now, and we're going to talk about the one in August coming up too, which is at Central Park, but let's just briefly talk about what is autism, because remember, we talked about the range, because the spectrum is like from minimal, to like you have trouble, you don't want to be touched, anything touching your skin bothers you. So there's a number of issues that are. So maybe you could explain a little bit
more. It ranges, as you said. The reason they call it a spectrum is because there is different. You can be.
And they don't have everything, but they may have.
You could be anywhere on the spectrum. So my son has, he's somewhere. I would say somewhere mid-spectrum. He doesn't speak, so language is sometimes a barrier. My son also had to have physical therapy. Muscle development was an issue for him as well. But the occupational therapy, all these services that were meant to get him on track to be able to achieve his goals.
So he can walk across that stage.
So he can eventually walk across that stage. And look, he's 22, and it took him a long time to get there. So he didn't graduate when everyone else did. He had to stay a little longer. But the important thing is,
he did it.
We did it. It's a journey, and it doesn't matter how long it takes. But the point is, you can achieve these goals. So you look at it. Everybody has different abilities, right? So don't even look at it as disabilities. Okay, my son has things he can do, and everybody that may have be on the spectrum, autism spectrum, may have things. We all have things we can't do.
Yeah.
But there's things that you can do.
Yeah.
And that's the point of these investments in these special education and the services that are provided today, is to find what the goals are and help people achieve those goals. Help them be a part of our community. Help them. And when you talk to people with disabilities, anybody, what they will say, the number one thing is they want to be included. They want to be a part of the basketball games.
They want to be part. If you're in a wheelchair, you want to be part. You want to be able to get there.
Being more accessible. Not on the list for today, but one of the things we were able to accomplish is one of the first sensory-friendly, all-inclusive parks in one of the schools in Amsterdam that does have swings for people with wheelchairs, that does have sensory-friendly grips, that is inclusive for everyone, even those with disabilities. It doesn't exclude anyone. So you see, these projects are coming around because people are understanding now, hey, we don't want to leave anybody out. And when you think about playgrounds, that's where relationships are made. That's where friends, kids come together and make friends.
But the ones who design these playgrounds haven't probably been aware. So you're bringing it aware to them is going to help the inclusion.
And that's it. And that's when we started the show. Autism awareness. It was for years and years autism awareness, and now that evolution to acceptance. Still keeping that awareness. We still keep that there. Take it one step further now.
Yeah.
Let's find out how we can be more inclusive.
Absolutely.
How can we get more of these playgrounds? How can we get more of these sensory-friendly events? How we can find career opportunities. And I have to give a shout out to the Gola Corporation, Price Chopper. They hire people with disabilities.
Yeah.
They've been doing it for years, but offering more of those opportunities where people can earn a paycheck. Just forget that they're disabled. What can people do? Look at ability,
Yeah.
and you find that they have ability that where you can have a career track, and people
It may not be easy for them,
It may not be easy, but
they can do it. I mean, with help, they can do it.
just as my son walked across that stage, it is possible. With the
Yeah.
right supports and services, people can achieve. Doesn't matter where you are on the spectrum. And I've met people all across the spectrum. I have a good friend of mine, Kerry Magro, who's he writes a book. He's a public speaker. We're looking to have him here at one of the bookstores. So I've met people from all across the spectrum that doesn't matter where they are. There are things out there that we can do to help them achieve their goals.
Exactly.
And that's what I'm working on at the state capitol with legislation, but it's not just legislation. Of course, it's things in our community that we can do right
do
now. We can
personally,
all,
yeah.
your audience, all of us can do something to be more inclusive and more welcoming.
Yes. Thank you so much, Angelo, and thank you for the sauce. That's really
Thank
good.
you. Yeah, well,
that's
I
good.
look forward to
Thank
seeing
you.
what happens to
Thank
that.
Good.
All right, hi, Mom. I got to say hi to Mom. All right.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me on
Andy.
the show.
Thanks,
Really
and
appreciate
thanks
it.
for
Okay.
doing what you're
Thanks.
doing.
Always a pleasure
Love
to see you.
Okay. And we're going to talk about Northern Rivers next because they're doing some really wonderful things as well. We have Jenny and Jolene here, and we're going to be talking about fostering. Is that correct?
Yep.
How difficult is it to find foster homes? Jolene, start.
Well, it is challenging. It's a very big commitment. There's quite a process to go through to become certified, and then there's a big commitment after with bringing children that you don't know and you don't necessarily know a lot about their background sometimes into your home, and they are your family member and they exist in your home just as everybody else does. So it's like having a kid overnight. They're just there all of a sudden.
Should you have other children when you foster, or can you just foster without having children? How does that, or can you be a senior citizen and foster? Tell me a little bit more. You're with Gloversville, right?
Yep.
And you're with Schenectady, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
We have a variety of different types of foster parents that are part of our world. People come who are of different ages. You have to be at least age 21 and older. We have people into their 70s and 80s sometimes fostering, whether they're doing full-time foster care. So that's every day, all day,
they
just
live
like
with
your
them.
own. Yep, just like as if you had your own children. Or we have people who provide respite foster care. So that might be giving another family a break, doing it for maybe a weekend or maybe just a week while the other family has to go. We have people who work full-time and can be foster parents. We also have people sometimes who are stay-at-home people or who are retired. Retired people are usually involved in lots of things, but they also have different flexibility sometimes.
Yeah, they probably have a little bit more time to spend even.
They do sometimes, yeah.
Well,
And they're empty nesters. They want to fill it
They
back
wanna
up,
fill
and
that little void.
yeah.
Tell me, if someone wanted to, they're watching the show right now, and they said, we've got plenty of space here. Maybe we'll foster a child or two. Maybe they're twins or something like that. What would they have to go through? And I don't know who wants to answer that, but I'll let somebody pick it up.
So they could go to our website, northernrivers.org, and there's a form you can fill out on there to inquire about becoming a foster parent. And what happens after that is it's separated by your location. So whoever is in charge of your location, it would be sent to that home finder, and they would contact you. And we usually set up orientation events, whether it's individual or we do a lot of virtual ones now as a group, and talk about the process and what's involved. And then we move on, if they want to continue, and move on to certification classes. I don't know if maybe you want to talk about a little bit of
Do
like
you-
the
Do you
process.
check the home at all to see?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because you want to know if you have space.
There's lots of different pieces
Yeah.
with that. We do home visits, we do home inspections, because there has to be, like you said, space, but there also has to be safety in the home. We also have to get to know people a lot. You know, we're trusting them with other people's children who have been sometimes in some really difficult situations. So we have to kind of know more about the families and more about the people themselves, and we spend time doing that. Our training class is a 10-week training class. We've been, it's a new curriculum as of this year that New York State has put out. It's the NTDC training. And we do 10 hours, 3 hours a week, and we do it virtually right now, which can be helpful because people can be at home and do that, which sometimes can be helpful for those people who might have their own kids.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it also allows us to bring people in from different offices. So, you know, Jolene and I have a little bit of a distance in between our offices, but ultimately, we train and cross-train people from all the different offices. We take turns.
Do you do background checks?
We do. Yep.
We check criminal history, we check the child abuse registry, and then we also check the Justice Center, which is like the abuse registry for group homes, ARCs, and such. So we do look into all of that. There's a process where you have to be cleared by a medical provider as well to ensure that you are capable, and if you need any kind of accommodations. Medical conditions don't generally rule people out, so I don't want that to scare anybody away, but we are aware of just general health and make sure that you're doing well and stuff like that.
Good.
So yeah.
So you're checking, so you do a pretty thorough check before you do that. Now,
Yeah.
once they're approved, how long do the children stay with them? Is it like forever, or is this temporary until the parents, the biological parents, get their lives in order? Or, I mean, I don't know what, I don't know who goes into foster is what I'm asking.
So kids come into foster care as a result of abuse and neglect, and the number one goal when they come into foster care is to reunify with their family. And so
What happens, I mean, I understand what you're saying.
yeah.
How do you get the parents, if they had issues, is there counseling for them, or what goes on?
So they work in partnership with our agency and their county that they're working with, and they basically have a list of items that they need to do that's given to them by the judge that they need to complete. So maybe they need to complete parenting classes, they need to have safe, stable housing, those kinds of things they need to show that they can provide for their children safely. If they have substance use
I was gonna say
challenges,
substance or alcohol. What do you
yeah,
do
they
about
usually
that?
have to have some kind of evaluation by professionals, and then they have to follow guidelines and recommendations from those professionals as well. And they do legally have about 1.5 years to complete all of these things while their child is in foster care.
So the child might be in foster care for about a year or more. Do you make any attempts to get them into with family members, like say a sister-in-law or a grandmother or something like that?
There's a huge push on that, and especially with New York State, there's a Safe Families Act, and ultimately we're really looking to make sure that families are being looked at, and that can be families that are blood-related families, it could be families by marriage, it could be somebody who's a really close friend of the family and stuff.
We've had
too.
teachers
have
teachers.
stepped up,
Yeah.
and so we consider those, kinship placements and everything, and some of those placements.
And those work as well.
They do. We
Yeah.
have a number of them in our agency, and so ultimately, we also have sometimes our traditional foster families where they might get kids in their care for a period of time until that relative can be found. So it might be that children are with our traditional family shorter because they are going to a relative resource.
So the kids then can go back to their parents if their biological parents, if it all works. What if
Correct.
it doesn't work?
So where the timeline comes into play is the federal law states that the parent has 15 out of the most recent 22 months to complete their terms and condition and bring their children home. if they do not complete it or they have not made substantial progress during that time, then the county is legally required to file a termination of parental rights. In an effort to what we call free the child legally for adoption. The parents are then also presented with the option to voluntarily surrender their rights, and generally if they voluntarily surrender, they are also given some kind of contact conditions post-surrender so they can continue to have contact. Yes. And then generally, foster parents who have been caring for the child for 2 years, probably at this point,
They can adopt.
they are offered to adopt as long as there's no family that's come forward. And then we work with the counties to help facilitate and complete the adoptions.
Is this a big problem?
Yes.
There's a huge need for foster parents.
It's
and that-
pretty sad
there's
to hear this.
there's a lot of situations that occur that are difficult, and families are struggling. There's different reasons families struggle too. It's not just
They end up
drugs,
homeless,
alcohol.
and then
It's
what do you
it's
do?
economics sometimes. It's just those struggles, and one thing kind of pushes the envelope, and it snowballs at times. So there are things and choices. The families of these children, ultimately, we're kind of seeing them in some of their hardest spots, but also
Oh,
sometimes.
yeah, because you wouldn't have seen them otherwise.
Yeah,
right?
and the hard part is, though, sometimes they were doing a lot better than maybe what they might even had themselves. The hard part is it might not be safe enough, or there might need to be a little bit more, and they need extra support. And the reality is the foster parents that we're looking for are people in the same communities as those kids. We
You
want,
don't want to take them out of their schools.
we
and-
ideally want to keep them in the same place if we can, because the more transition they have, the more difficult that can be.
Well, and so anyone that's watching right now that might be interested in fostering a child, there is a process. It's not going to be, you're not going to walk in and say, I'll take that one or that one. I mean, it's
Yeah.
they're not in cages there that you pick them up.
No.
Yeah, I usually like to tell people, like, it is a process, but view it from the opposite side, that if for some reason your child or your family member had to go in a foster home,
What would
you
you
would
want?
want to make sure that they were vetted, so to speak, properly. So that's why sometimes it feels intrusive, because we need to get a lot of information to make sure we're making appropriate
You're
placements.
absolutely right, because it's protected. I mean,
And it can
it
happen
used
to
be called
anybody,
protective foot,
Yeah,
so-
yeah, it can happen to anybody.
So if you're interested, you go to Northern Rivers.
NorthernRivers.org, yeah.
.org, and you can find out how you could foster, and maybe this will be the gift that you didn't know you were ever going to receive.
Yes.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Jolene, and I want Jenny and Jolene here. One is from Schenectady, and one is from Gloversville. So I'm sure that you'll find homes for some.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All,
Thank you.
maybe.
Yes.
Thank you so much both for being here and raising the awareness of foster care and how important it is and for our entire community.
Yes, yes. Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to switch over here, and I know we heard the cathedral there, the Highland Cathedral. Hey, hi Bill, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. Well, I know that, first of all, I know the Scottish Games are coming up, but you're headed for Scotland, aren't you?
Yep, we're getting excited about going over to Scotland. We're leaving on August 7th, and we'll be coming back on the 21st.
Just in time for the Scottish Games.
Yes, exactly. And Sadie, my 16-year-old granddaughter, will be competing with the Capital District Youth Band, and for a World Championship.
World
with-
Championship, whoa.
Yeah, and so that's why we're going over to cheer
Now,
her
are
on.
the Schenectady Pipe Band going to compete?
No, we're not competing this year, no.
Okay.
But,
You have done well, though, there.
Oh, yeah. We've been over there 5 times competing, yep.
Yeah.
Had one world championship in just in deportment, and
It's amazing. Now, think about that. From here, they go to Scotland and get the world champion. I mean, now that has got to be amazing, because the Scots are probably going, what happened?
it's fun to listen to the Scots try and say Schenectady.
Yeah, oh, that's another thing. I never thought about that.
But we have,
Of course, they're speaking. Do they speak Gaelic there?
pardon me?
Do they speak Gaelic there?
Oh, they speak, yes, it's
it Gaelic?
Gaelic, but it's a broad Scots is what they call
Oh,
it.
okay.
And it's quite a, sometimes I can't understand them. So it's most of the time I can understand them,
Yeah.
but if you get in some of them up in the Highlands when
And they have a dialect probably.
yeah.
Yeah. So you're going with your granddaughter. Who else in the family is going?
We have 11 of us going.
11 of you.
Her brother Isaac, who is 12,
He's this guy. Doesn't he play the bagpipes too?
he's playing too. In
He's
fact,
got everybody playing the bagpipes.
the two of them are over in Vancouver right now for a piping workshop that they won scholarships to.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and then when they come back from there, they're going to be going over to another piping workshop in Invermark, which is on Jiminy Peak. So
Okay,
they'll
that'll
be
be in the U.S., but the
they'll be
other
ready
Vancouver
for
is in Canada.
yeah. So they'll be ready for competing in the world by the time they're done with all of that.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's really exciting.
So your granddaughter is performing with the band here.
The
Is
Capital
the
District
band?
Youth
So
Pipe
she's
Band.
not doing
Yep.
a solo. She's
Yeah.
going to be.
Yeah, Capital District Youth Pipe Band. They have a nice little band that they've won in the juvenile division. They've won it twice.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it's not unlikely that they could do it
win.
again.
Yeah. Does that include just playing, or do they march? I mean, how does that? Because a lot of times their marching is involved as
They
well.
march into a formation and then they play their medley.
Okay.
And
Like
they have
they do at the Scottish Games.
Yeah, that's right. They got 3 or 4 judges who are walking around listening for how the pipes are tuned up, if they're executing all the movements correctly, if they're able to keep a steady sound, so all those things. So it's quite a.
Are you going to be able to watch?
Oh yes, you kidding me?
You're going to be rooting for them. Oh my goodness. And this is a big competition. And where is this held? In Glasgow? Where
In
is it?
Glasgow.
Okay.
Yep, Glasgow Green. There's probably I would say, about 110 pipe bands from around the world.
110.
Yep.
So if they place or come in tops, you know
Oh.
they're darn good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know that you'll be back in time for the 31st.
That's
when you
right.
have the Scottish game.
Yep.
I was a little bit disappointed to see that you're just still doing it for one day rather than the
Yes,
3 days.
you know, the pandemic kind of.
I know it used to be 3 days.
Yeah, we
Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday.
Yeah, but the pandemic, we didn't have them one year, and then the next year we still weren't sure if people were going to be up to coming out and doing these things.
Right.
So we said we better try and cut costs a little
Just
bit.
one day.
So we went to one day, but it was so successful that I don't think the committee's ever going to go back to 2 days.
Really?
It's just working really well for us, and they get to see everything they get to see.
So you just get everybody coming on one day rather than spreading it
That's
out.
right. That's right.
Because that's really all that's happening.
Yeah.
Although you have the games were on for 2 days, right? Weren't they?
No, we do them all in one day.
You do them all in one
Yep,
day.
yep. The caber toss and the hammer throw, and we have all the entertainment in the
tossing of the sheath.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
I love that one.
Yeah, that is
I
fun.
can't believe how high they
I
go with
know.
those. If you haven't seen it, they have this. It's
a 16-pound sheet of hay,
yeah, and they stick
and
a
they
pitchfork in
use
it
a pitchfork and then pitch it over their.
over the back of them.
Yeah.
And it raises, and now we're not talking like this. We're
Oh,
talking
no.
like
No,
40 feet.
Yeah, they're probably around 30, 32 feet.
Yeah.
That's a long way up.
And they keep raising it until you're eliminated.
That's right.
You know?
Yeah, until somebody gets it over and no one else can.
Yeah.
So
It's
there's your
really
winner.
to see the games. These are not something you're going to see on TV probably unless you're in Scotland. But anyway, you just don't see this, and to go there and see
Yeah.
the competition. And the one thing I found to be really amazing is it with the hammer throw. Is that the one where they spin around? And is that the one? Women
Yeah.
are fabulous.
Yeah, yeah. It's quite an exciting. It's
And do they
people get
compete-
really into it. You know.
Yeah. Do they compete against the men? The women?
No, they have their own.
They have their own.
To compete against each
They
other.
could compete
Yeah.
against the men, believe me. They're good. They're good. They're good. And let's see, and I like that one a lot. And the other one is the caber toss. And the caber toss is interesting because I think people have to understand it's quite scientific.
It is. The caber is about 20 feet long. Caber means tree trunk, and it's about 20 feet long and weighs about 110 to 120 pounds. And
And
all
it's
the weight
tapered,
is
it's
the
tapered.
narrow end and a larger end. Well,
So the
they-
heavy end is at the top.
That's right. And they grab it with their hands. How they even get it up, I don't know.
I don't know
But
either.
they got to pick it off the ground, get it here, and then balance it, and then start to move forward.
They
to get
kind of
some
run with it
momentum.
a little bit, right?
Pardon?
They run with it a little
Yeah,
bit.
they do to get it, and then when the technique is that when they think that they're ready to throw it, they stop and they lift up, and the idea is to so that the
12
the
o'clock.
end hits there and goes straight ahead. So if you threw from 6 o'clock, you're looking at 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
That's a perfect throw, and they each get 3 tries at doing that.
I saw one that got it behind him.
Oh yeah.
It went like that, and all of a sudden it went.
Yeah, yeah, you got to be careful.
I go, don't stand anywhere near these guys. They're just really,
Yeah.
And what is it the hammer throw where they have to get it into as far away? Is that what
The
is
hammer
the one
throw,
where they?
and well, there's the 2 stones. 16,
Is that where they do that and they?
No, that's the shot put line.
The shot put. Okay.
Yeah, and
See,
then
I'm trying to remember because I love watching this stuff.
Yeah, and then there's the hammer throw.
And there's bleachers you can sit and watch.
Yeah, right. And then there's the hammer throw, and there's one other event, but I'm not thinking of the name of it right now. But it goes on all day long. The Scottish Games are like a 12-ring circus. Something's taken part all the time on every corner of the field. So we encourage everybody to number one, get there early because it's only a 2-lane road into Altamont.
I know it.
We get
But
10,000
it's
people
okay.
there.
Parking is not a problem.
Yeah, but yeah, if you gotta, if you get there by 11 o'clock, you'll be okay.
Yeah.
But after 11, sometimes it's backed up out almost to Western
It
Avenue.
does. It is.
Yeah,
It gets backed
yeah.
up. Now we've talking about the Scottish Games, but remember, music is a part of Scotland.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, besides the bagpipes.
Yeah, we have a huge entertainment tent, lovingly called the beer tent by many. And this year we have Scary Vor, which is a very popular Scottish band coming from Scotland.
Coming from Scotland.
To play, and then we've got several other bands, both local and from Canada, coming to play. We're a little sad that one band that has been coming since we started the games up 47 years ago, the Brigadoons.
Oh, they didn't disband, did they?
Yeah, they're just getting to the point where they can't
the
do it
Brigadoons
anymore.
were so great,
Oh,
yeah.
everybody loved them.
And I'm telling you, if you're in that tent, that place rocks.
Yeah, it really
It
does.
really rocks.
Yeah.
I mean, and
Yeah.
they get so, well, and then the fiddlers, and I mean, there's just so much going on there.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So the key is get there early and buy your tickets early, because if you buy them on our website, which is scottgames.com, you'll pay $18 for them. Children 12 and under are always free. We try to keep this
A family
affordable
affair.
for families. So if you buy them on the website, it'll cost you $18 for a ticket. If you wait and buy them at the gate, it'll cost $25. So there's
Okay.
significant savings if you get on early.
But if you want to support them, buy them at the door. Give them some extra money, right? These guys work really hard. You cannot imagine that they take over the entire fairground and everything, whether it's vendors or whether it's the Highland dancers or whether it's the dogs or the dog show or I mean, there's just so much going on there, and the food is always great.
Yep.
And there's plenty of bathrooms too, by the way.
Yep.
You don't have to worry too much about that because you kind of worry about that sometimes. But the food is good, and yes, please spend the entire day there. And I always find something nice that I want to buy. It's like, oh, I can't. Should I buy it? Should I? I'm back there and I'm buying it. And you're supporting them. And if you belong to a clan, the clans have their own booths, right?
Yep. We usually have 30 or 40 clan and societies that, for instance, Monroe is one of them. And
Monroe, who's that?
Yeah,
No.
if you want to talk about your genealogy, we can
Yeah.
do that a little bit with you. And the other 30 clans do the same thing. So people walk around, and
Exactly.
the kids get a little passport book, and if they go get it stamped, every place they're supposed to get it stamped, they win a little prize.
Oh, that's nice.
So each clan's got a stamp that they have to stamp their passport
Well,
on.
mark your calendar. You want to go to the Scottish Games on August the 31st, and that is on Altamont Fairgrounds. And come early so you don't have to stand in line or anything, you know. And you can buy your ticket ahead of time. But if you want to give a little extra money, you can buy it at the door. Right?
There you go.
Thank you so much, Bill, and have a wonderful trip. Safe
Thank you.
journey to
I hope to see you at the
Scotland.
games again.
And I'll be thinking about your granddaughter and
Oh, boy.
when is she competing?
Well, she's competing on the 19th.
The 19th. Will
Yeah.
that be on the?
No, the 17th. I'm sorry about
Will
that.
that be on the
17th.
front page of the New York Times?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Thanks so much for being here. It's always a pleasure to have you on the
Good
show
seeing
and
you,
to learn
Ann.
a little bit more about Scotland and haggis. You never know. We'll talk about that next year. Thank you so much, Bill. And I met these two lovely ladies, oh my goodness, a while back when we were over at the dinosaur exhibit, which is at Armory Studios, New York. And you guys, you know so much.
I hope so.
Yeah, paleontologist here, and you're with the collections and things. So tell me a little bit about, because I got all your photos and I got them up there.
good.
So let's talk about some of those. And then we're going to talk about dinosaurs too. And are there any in New York State?
Well, there
Well.
certainly were dinosaurs in New York State during the age of dinosaurs. The problem is that we have very few rock formations that are of the correct age to preserve the dinosaurs.
Oh, because so that they couldn't be compressed. And, yeah.
Right, so they have to be buried in some sort of sand or mud or something in order to become preserved. And there weren't very many low-lying areas where sand and mud could accumulate.
Right.
Except in places like Rockland County, and we do have dinosaur footprints from there.
Okay.
So we know they were here, we do have some evidence, but the rocks that persisted today just aren't really the right age.
Okay. Well, at least we know they were here.
They were here, we know that.
Yeah.
But we don't know that much more about them.
We don't know much more about them, but why don't we, well, first of all, you're in charge of collections, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what do you do?
I
You
preserve.
she finds the fossils.
Yes.
She hands them to you.
Yes.
And you categorize.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
And then Richard gets a picture on the wall.
Yeah, it's fantastic. We have huge collections, and it's my job to make sure that they are around for the next generation of researchers who
Yes.
wants to study
Important.
them. And there's constant updating of archival techniques, how to properly care for them, and to make sure that they are cataloged in a way that researchers and amateurs could use them and find out about what we have.
How would we even know what a fossil looks like? Maybe we should look at a fossil.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah. Can you bring one up, Raymond? And leave it up for a while. Okay, we've got two of them there, I guess.
Okay, so the one on the left is a cephalopod. A cephalopod is a squid, octopus, cuttlefish.
Squid, octopus. I know what a squid looks like, and I know
Right.
what an octopus. They look like almost the same.
Do you know what a chambered nautilus looks like?
Oh,
it's
gosh,
like a
I
squid.
knew that. I just can't.
It's like a squid that's living in a coiled shell, like the one on the
Oh, a
left.
shell, okay.
So that would have had squid arms and head sticking out the front of the shell, the one on
Okay.
the left right there.
So that's the one on the left.
Yep.
And these
then-
are high resolution photos because I know they're 18 megabytes. So
Yes, sorry.
That's okay. But it was like, whoa, these are big, but they're high resolution.
They
Okay.
are. So you can zoom in really close and look at growth lines on the shell or little patterns that are
So
on
the
the
first
shell.
one is a cross between an octopus and a squid, but it's in a shell.
It's basically a squid in a shell, in a
squid in
coiled
a
shell. Yep.
Okay. And how did you know what to call it?
How did you know?
How do you know what to call it? I mean,
Oh, we've been studying fossils for a few hundred years now, and many of them have been named. There are always new ones that can be discovered, and we can name those. And in fact, cephalopods change so quickly through time that they can be used to date the rocks.
would that be evolution?
Yes.
For all of you who don't understand, there is evolution.
There has to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Or we wouldn't need new antibiotics.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we don't have any. Can we go back again, Raymond, because we didn't talk about the second one on that same slide.
The second one is a couple of corals.
Oh,
Oh, wait, where'd it go?
Yeah.
Oh, there it is.
There it is. Okay.
Those are a few corals.
Whoops, wrong one. There it is. No. Is that
There
the
we
one?
go.
Yeah, that's the
right
one.
there.
Okay.
Those are a few corals
I'm a
from
distance
the,
away, so it's hard to tell. Yeah, go ahead.
Those were part of the Onondaga Reef. It is about a 300 390 million year old reef that thrived in New York State. Lots of different types of corals. The cephalopods we just looked at would have swam over the reef. There would be crinoids clinging to the reef, trilobites scuttling about, all sorts of different
Now,
animals
how are
living
these-
amongst the corals.
How are these different now? One, because I can't quite see the second one, but is that a cephalopod as well?
No, these are just corals,
Oh,
coral
these are the
skeletons.
coral.
Yeah.
And corals are alive.
Well, these types of corals are not. These are a different type of coral that was alive during the Devonian period through the Permian.
What I'm saying,
Then
it
they
was
went
alive
extinct.
at one
Oh,
time.
yeah.
It was alive. And
Yeah,
it
that's the
reproduced
skeleton
and
of it.
everything.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so I didn't know that we had coral in this area.
Oh, yeah. Big, huge reefs.
I thought they had to be warm weather.
Well, the continent was actually located much further south, and it was rotated clockwise a little bit.
And that's a
So we were actually,
Pangea? Was it Pangea?
this is actually before Pangea.
Okay.
And we were located south of the equator.
Oh, we were. Okay.
So it was like a tropical sea that was covering New York during the
Okay.
Devonian
All right,
period.
Yeah. Okay, let's take a look at another. I can't tell. That's a different one.
Okay, so on the left we have a tree stump. These are actually world famous. They're from the Gilboa Fossil Forest. The Gilboa Fossil Forest is the oldest known forest in the world. It's about
Gilboa?
Yes.
You mean like in New York State?
Yep.
Gilboa Dam and all that
Yep.
stuff?
It's about 385 million years old. And recently an older fossil forest was discovered, but that's okay because it's in New York too.
Oh, okay, good.
So
We'll
we
take both.
keep the title.
So
So
I wonder why New York. You would think it would be like north, like Maine or something like that.
well, there was a big mountain range to the east.
Okay.
And the mountains where all of the sand and mud and everything were eroding
So
off the
it was
mountains
able
and
to-
depositing on the shores of this ocean, and that's where those trees lived.
Hey, Richard, are you learning a lot here?
Every day.
Yeah,
that I spend
and
with
Richard,
Lisa
of
and
course,
Sarita.
I mentioned is with the dinosaur immersive, and we have a display up there of your photos and explanation of New York State.
Yeah, when the show came through, when we found out we were getting the show, we sat down and spoke, both Ray, the co-owner, and our general manager, Kim, and I. And what we wanted to do was localize perhaps the story of the dinosaurs a little bit. And I kind of knew there wasn't really a dinosaur fossil from New York State, but I was
Yet.
undeterred.
Yet.
Undeterred, right. So I contacted the New York State Museum, hoping perhaps to get a little bit of help, maybe from a paleontologist, on putting up some panels at Armory Studios New York to create like a STEM
Panels are
environment.
wonderful, by the way. I
Aren't
really
they?
like the panels.
So anyway, we found not just two paleontologists, but an incredible wealth
Team.
of passion.
Yeah.
And to Lisa and Sarita, these fossils are alive, and they make them alive for everybody else. So when you come to Armory Studios New York and you're in the lobby, you don't have to buy a ticket to the show. If you've seen dinos already, just come on
Come back
out.
and see it. Yeah, it was just installed recently.
Right,
yeah.
they're in the lobby, and there are 6 panels, and I wrote them down because I'll forget. Every fossil tells a story. One on the New York State Museum itself, which we're promoting and we're extremely proud of. One on Bite Force, that's very fun. One on Eurypteres rempes, the New York State fossil, a very sexy fossil, if I may say so
Is
myself.
it really? Do we have a picture of that sexy fossil here?
And New York State dinosaur tracks, and lastly, geologic time, history in stone.
The
And I
time
think,
is amazing.
I think Lisa wants to jump in and talk about
Okay, all right.
Eurypteres
Yeah,
a little
jump
bit.
right in, Lisa.
Eurypteris ramipes is the state fossil of New York. It's a sea scorpion. And I always tell people, why would you choose a state fossil that you can barely pronounce, let alone spell? And the reason,
What is the name?
Eurypteris ramipes.
Okay.
There's lots of
Rolls
E's
right
and
off the
Y's
tongue.
and R's, and there aren't many vowels. But the reason why Eurypteris ramipes was chosen is because, first of all, sea scorpions look cool. And secondly, because sea scorpions lived all over the world for a few million years. But they are found relatively rarely in the rocks. They don't preserve very frequently, not in many places, sometimes not in a complete fossil. Sometimes you just get an arm or part of the head. Well, in
But
New
you've
York,
got a complete one?
oh, we have millions of complete ones in
Okay,
the
good.
state because of the way the sediment was on the bottom of the ocean is very, very fine mud. So when the Eurypterids died and settled down to the seafloor and got buried, they're preserved in great detail. And there are just millions in the rocks. And you have to know where to look for them. They have to be a specific unit of rocks. But we have, all the museums in New York State have a bunch of Eurypterus fossils because we have so many.
That's why it's the fossil of the state.
The state fossil, exactly. It was also the first Eurypter discovered and named, was in New York.
You know, you make me very jealous. I wish I had gone into paleontology because this is so fascinating.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and has she ever made a discovery?
Oh, well, we make discoveries a lot, but mainly Dr. Amati's research is taking trilobites that have already been discovered and finding out where they fit in the family tree.
Ah, okay. And where have you've been out digging, right? I'm
Oh,
sure.
yes. And where we're
What's your
digging,
famous dig?
where
What's your
we're
favorite
in,
dig?
My favorite one. Northeastern British Columbia was a lot of fun because we were in the wilderness. More recently, we did a dig up by Lowville, Watertown area, and 4 of us went and hammered on the rocks, and that's just the best thing, is hammering a rock open and finding
And then
something
you're finding
no
a
one's ever
fossil
seen.
inside.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just,
I mean,
it's an amazing
us,
feeling.
It was just those, what is it, those little pointy things that you found, arrowheads.
Oh,
That was
yeah.
it. If we found an arrowhead, it was like really great.
Fossils can be more difficult because you have to
No, I know.
know which rock unit, and then you have to hammer on it for hours sometimes before you find
Really?
anything.
Okay, so you have to split it. And you
Yeah.
got to be careful too. It's sort of like I see people doing the digs and they got these little tiny brushes working with it. You know, it's not like it's
No, I use a 2.5 pound hammer.
you do. And does it split in the right place?
If you do it right, but not always. Usually what happens is there's a zone of weakness where the fossil is, so it'll break more easily, but sometimes it breaks right across it and cuts it in half.
Oh, you don't want to do that though.
You know,
Well, that means you have 2 then.
yeah, 2 halves.
Do you take your show on the road at all? Because this is fascinating, and I think that you would stimulate a lot of interest in school kids if they knew how interesting and fascinating this is, even if you can't pronounce the names of the fossils.
One of the best things about paleontology is that kids love it. So we can kind of lure them in and give them some scientific literacy while they're not paying attention. While they're looking at the dinosaur, you're teaching them science.
Yeah, exactly.
So it is a good benefit to us. And we have school groups come in and we go to schools when we're invited. So we do as much public programming as we can. And in February at the New York State Museum, we're going to be having the Rock and Fossil Fun Fair. So we will have tons of fossils and minerals and
You
rocks.
need Taylor Swift, right?
No.
Oh no. We'll have all sorts of materials from the collections out to view, and there are 13 stations where kids can do activities. And again, we try to give them activities that are fun so they're not really noticing how much they're learning.
Now, where is this held?
This is held in the New York State Museum.
Museum, okay.
And it's free.
Yeah, I mean, this is great. I love the museum, but that's one of my favorite places. Richard, how is the exhibit going there? And I'd like your comments, both Lisa and Sarita, on if you went to the exhibit, what did you think of it?
Oh, the dino's alive?
We had a blast.
Yeah, we did.
had a blast. They couldn't get us out of the underwater room where you can explore
I
all
know,
sorts
you
of
feel the
underwater
thing.
life,
Yeah.
and they react to you. My gosh, you had to peel
then
me
you
out.
turn around and he's coming right at you.
Right.
It's like, whoa, where did that come from?
Yeah, we had so much fun. And the animatronic dinosaurs aren't perfectly real, but they're real enough to use your imagination and feel like you're walking among them.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, amazing. And Richard, how long did it take to put that in? Do you know? I mean, I know you didn't do it. So.
It was a complete deconstruction from the Monet show, which was kind of unexpected. And it took about 2.5 weeks. They do this all over the world.
It's an amazing
Yeah.
exhibit.
Dinosaurs
and-
were coming in boxes, which was hilarious, you know.
Yeah. Well, what I find interesting is that you've done the dinosaurs, and of course
Yes.
kids think dinosaurs are great, but to partner it with the museum and bring in the fossils, because I mean that's the time. I mean that actually, if you found a dinosaur, it'd be a fossil, I guess.
Yep.
You know, because just the bones maybe.
But
We
when
don't
we-
even know what they look like, really. I mean,
So true.
we know what the bones look like, but we don't know what they actually look like because
We do have skin impressions, and for feathered dinosaurs, there are little tiny molecules that are preserved in the feathers that can actually give us an idea of color.
Oh, of color.
Oh, yes. And there are skin impressions that tell us, you know, what the texture of the skin would have been like. There's a dinosaur
like
that's
leather-like, or was it? I mean,
yeah,
or
and,
was
and
it
kind
more
of
like an amphibian?
It depends on the dinosaur, but they tend to be lumpy and kind of leathery looking. And there's one dinosaur that was
Exciting.
preserved
I
as
was
a mummy.
I want to come work with you guys.
Yeah,
Please do.
so-
It's a blast.
So the more time that goes on, the more impressive things are being found. You know, rarely do we find evidence to tell us what the skin looked like, but we do find it occasionally.
Okay, all right. Now, and I understand that. Where was the biggest find in the United States, I'll say, but maybe it was in Sahara Desert. I don't know. Where was the biggest find for the largest dinosaur bones?
The largest dinosaurs from South America, I believe.
South America.
Yes, and in the United States, it was Wyoming and Colorado and Montana where we found most of the dinosaur bones.
Wow. So, and they roamed the entire continent.
Yeah, they roamed-
probably across the Bering Straits and into China. Who
They
knows?
were.
I don't know.
They were all over the continents. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
But only some places do you have the rocks of the right age that could have
To-
accumulated in
like-
such a way to bury something that big.
to
So
compress
usually,
it.
usually river floods would bury a dinosaur, something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, and do you have any clues as to the extinction?
Oh, we have lots of clues about the extinction. We have so many lines of evidence that there was an impact, an extraterrestrial
asteroid?
impact at the end of the
You
Cretaceous.
don't think aliens came and took them?
I do not. But you know, if they did, they could bring them back, so that'd be cool.
So it was an event.
Yes.
An astrological event.
Yes, and there's still some debate as to whether they were declining before the event. We're not sure, but the event definitely happened, and there's no way that you could survive that, you know, except
I've watched
for a
those
few
movies.
different.
I've watched all those movies.
Yeah, it doesn't look good.
It doesn't look good if that asteroid hits. And how big does an asteroid have to be to hit? I mean, to do damage?
I don't think it needs to be that big. I don't remember
That's
how.
what I heard,
I
yeah.
don't remember exactly how big the Chicxulub crater was.
Yeah. And it does. I mean, where is it? Was it in Russia that they? Is it Russia that has the big crater?
Oh, the crater's in the Yucatan Peninsula.
Yucatan. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I mean, amazing. We know that they did hit.
Oh yeah.
And there could be another asteroid event.
Absolutely.
You know, that
and
we
we'll
don't-
go the way of the dinosaurs.
Who knows? I mean, we think we have so much control, and I guess we don't have too much control. Right?
Oh no.
Yeah. Now, you have an exhibit at the museum, and where is that located?
An exhibit?
Yeah. I mean, don't you have fossils there?
We do. We
I mean,
have
what
the.
part of the museum would they find?
Oh, they're kind of scattered throughout.
Okay.
We don't have a dedicated exhibit
You don't
except
have
for
the
the.
cases?
We do have an Ice Ages exhibit with Ice Age animals, fossils in it. That's really cool that you should check out. And we are probably going to be creating an exhibit on Eurypterids soon, so you'll be able to see your
That's
very own
the fossil of
Eurypterus
the state
remipes.
fossil.
And we have other sea scorpions besides Eurypterus remipes that are really cool too. So
I'd love to hear. Say that again.
Eurypterus remipes.
I love it. So yeah, and how long will that exhibit be at the dinosaur exhibit?
Probably till the end of the summer. We never
The
know
end of the
with.
summer. Yeah, you never know
exactly,
when they're
but-
going to decide
yeah,
to move it
yeah.
somewhere else.
And
So-
actually, the Eurypterus, you could see pictures of it online.
You say it good too.
Yeah, I hang out with some cool people. So you can see the pictures online, which are terrific. But of course, we blew one up large. So when you come and see the picture in the,
the
lobby,
picture, not the.
the first thing that came to me when I saw the picture, which is very high resolution, was delicious. It looked like seafood. It's the most wonderful.
Really?
It really is so remarkably well preserved that if you made it red, you would think someone just boiled it for dinner.
Really?
Yeah, it's
That's
striking.
the one in one of those plates, right?
It's
One-
a, it's,
yeah,
it's
'cause
a,
I saw that.
the
Yeah.
Illustration's probably about that
Yeah,
big. So again,
yeah.
terrific for kids. A real STEM thing. If you're home educating as well, it's a really wonderful opportunity because again, it gives a New York State angle to and reference point to all the wonderful things that you're going to see in the dinos exhibit.
Yeah, amazing. So,
Yeah.
but don't go anywhere because I do want to tell you who's coming up, and then we're going to come back and finish this interview because I don't want to miss this. So, The Chinese Community Center will be on, the Hamilton Hill Arts Center coming up, the Northside Bethel Center coming up, Schenectady Historical Society, Schenectady School Athletic Hall of Fame. We've got Recycling Denim. We have an artist there. The Harbinger Theater will be coming on, the Italian Street Festival, Schenectady Light Opera, the Stockade Art Show. We do it all. We cram it all in.
Sounds great.
So coming up. So Lisa, how long have you been doing this?
Ooh, professionally since 2004. I was in college for about 12 years. But
You gotta get that doctorate. It takes a while.
it does take a while.
And if you're really good, they don't want you
costs a
to
lot.
get it right away.
But my parents used to take us fossil hunting when I was a kid too.
Okay.
So that kind of gave me the idea that this is something I might want to do when I grew up.
Yeah, that's good. And Sharita, how long have you been doing this?
Professionally in this job, I've only had it for 4 years, but I worked on my master's back in the early thousands and on human evolution and fossil footprints. It's
Perfect.
so fun. It's been the best. And then I've taken a turn into invertebrates, which is quite different from human evolution, but it's just fascinating. And I adore taking care of the collection. It's just, I've loved museums since I was a kid. I used to sleep over as a Girl Scout.
I love museums.
And it's just, I got my passion young, yeah.
Yeah. So if you get a chance, go to the New York State Museum and check out the dinosaur exhibit. We've got so much good stuff, and I do want to end this with one thing. Be sure to read Project 2025. It's very important that you know what you're voting on. Thank you.